Hey, what's up, everyone? So, this is gonna be round six of the Magistral Argentina I League that we're playing. So, today I'm up against Mario Madrona from Spain. I think today I might actually try to go for the Buffalo opening and see, what variation I can perform within the Buffalo opening. Okay, so good luck, Mario. Let's get this game started. So I'll start off with my usual e6. He does go for the diagonal opening, just cutting into the center and centralize. So he plays standard diagonal counter. So I'll go for the buffalo opening, which is basically a diagonal cut across at the tip. Okay, so right now he's played the. I don't know how to describe this opening, but it's basically forming a solid block. So I'll just form a pair, somewhat more of a mid-game pair, to c6, basically inviting him to just jump in, or okay, he does this. So I'll just cross over here, just taking one disc, just keeping the general shape small, and basically just waiting for him to play some. Uh, okay, so right now he's actually just cut across to d2. So over here, I have a few options. Either I play to E1 over here and just flip one disc, or I just go to the usual book sequence, which is at E3 over here, and then expect him to actually jump into E2, followed by me going into E1. So either sequence kind of leads to the same place, perhaps. But let's go ahead with E1 for a different variation instead of playing the F3 move. So usually if I play E1, the standard response should be C1. Okay, which he has played C1. Right now I like to play the variation that I played in the WOC 2019 against one of the top Korean players. So let's go with G6, which is essentially a very loud move, even though it does look very loud and flips three discs and form on the plane of it. It does lead to a potential variation that could be interesting. So basically, wherever white responds to the bottom, I think most likely I'll be able to play like a C2 move over here, just to cut it through in a diagonal manner and just make it a bit complicated for him to respond. So let's see how he plays this. I think the best move right here for now for him is actually to play E7 or F7. Either one works. Okay, so instead he plays d7. Okay, so I think d7 doesn't really change up much. I don't have access against this e column, so there's no way I can centralize here for now. And these two discs together with this disc forms an awkward shape. There's a momentary control of the horizontal lines by him as well. So there's no way I can play any other move. Right now, in fact, my legal move is only to 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 e8 and also to c2. Well, just now you heard a meow, so basically that was my cat Luna, and he actually helped me play the e8 move. Ah, Luna. So I actually intended to play c2 first, but right now Luna has helped me click on to e8. So this is going to be an interesting variation. It was unintended, but let's see how the game goes. Okay, so Mario responded to c8. So basically, it's a crossover. So right now, I still can play my intended c2. So let's see how that goes with c2. Okay, so right now Mario has taken g5, so that's quite an interesting move. Just a cut into the center. So right now there is a bit of a dilemma for me because he has a follow-up good move to f3, and yet f3 isn't a great move for me. So one way to actually overcome this is to actually just take d1 and feed off f1 and then just jump in to e2 and therefore poison this move potentially. But I would still face that dilemma of maybe black, white, black, white. I wouldn't have one move over here to play to in order to control this mini diagonal between d4 and also e3. So this should be quite a complicated game over here. But yeah, it's somewhat my intention for today at least to keep the game complicated and see what works out. Should be fun. If I were to play c4 right now and he goes to a simple f3, I also don't have a follow-up move over here. So maybe to retain excess, I might actually need to consider the bottom first. But if I were to let go of f3, that would be too tough. So there's no way in preventing the move because this is contributing excess to that move. The poison approach would be to play d1 followed by f1, d1 feed off f1, take e2, and then he might consider playing this move or either f2 or f3, either one probably. That would be the poison approach, or of course the third approach would mean taking the move itself. If I were to take the move and he were to jump in, I would still face a difficult situation. So I think I'll go with a poison approach and let's see how that goes. Okay, so surprisingly he chooses f3 over taking the f1 edge. So now the game is becoming quite difficult for me because I don't have that commitment from him to actually get that poison across. So given that he's re-established control of these two horizontal lines and this vertical line, it would then be important for me to actually capture tempo to take it. So if I were to take it and he follows through to maybe f7, I would probably face a huge problem in terms of trying to get access to moves thereafter. Either way seems to be difficult. If right now I were to choose to just jump in over here and capture access to jump into the center row, that could be possible as well. Let me see, what other options do I have? I don't have moves to here. There's no way I can establish access. This is too loud a move. This is also way too loud a move, which I don't have consecutive moves to the center perhaps. But if I were to play here and white takes this, I'll still be able to jump in to try to target the e2 move. That is possible. And of course I have a couple of moves over here to consider. This is way too loud. This might be actually potentially fine, but he might just take a diagonal cut to defend the line. But I establish g5 and I would then be able to jump into c5. So this might actually be an important move to consider about. So if I were to take this and he takes this, or the bottom move, I'll still be able to cut through. The only concern is if I take this and he continues to prevent it, then I wouldn't have a nice way to cut into the center anymore. That would be a problem for me for sure. And he also re-establishes this to cut into the center again. Black, white, black, white. I don't have the access to cut into the center as well. So that is a huge problem. If I were to take the tempo right now, he basically has 2 tempo at least to jump in here and jump across. But if he jumps in, I'll take this, he wouldn't be able to remove it by that. So I would say it's just between those two moves, I guess. It's either going to be g4 or b1. b1 seems to be slightly riskier. g4 is a safer move, but seems to be possible to be prevented by him as well. If I were to go to h4, that would be too loud if you were to just counter with h5. So this is an issue here. I think I could go to g4 first, try to establish access to the center. If he does remove it by playing h5, I then go for the tempo to cover back. And then potentially he might jump in over here, which could still be difficult for me. So I think this game has begun to be a bit more challenging for sure. And I think considering the amount of time that Mario is also thinking about this game, is that he probably is out of book already, because this opening is definitely not commonly played, and plus a misclick was actually played by my cat earlier, Luna, basically playing the e8 move for me by just stepping his foot on my mouse cursor, basically. Okay, so surprisingly that Mario has actually committed to the top first, so that potentially opens up an opportunity for me to cut into the center using the g5 disc that I've established. So I guess c5 probably makes more sense than c4, because c4 basically gives up g3, which is an easy move for him. So let's go with c5 and establish e5, which potentially gives me a couple more access here and there. So right now, just trying to anticipate where he might move. He might go for b1 to try to close up the edge and form a solid edge to the top. That is a possibility. Another possibility is this continuous row that I've created opens up both the head and tail end. So those would be quiet moves for him to play as well. He probably wouldn't want to consider b5, because I would then be able to just take the simple c4. So he might actually choose to prevent c4 and also go for h5 at the same time, using a head and tail theory, the head being here, the tail end giving a quiet move. So he might go for this. But be it h3 or h5, if he chooses to play, basically opens up e2 for me to cut in and establish e4, which would give me access again to c4. So he might be thinking of that as well. So if you can't prevent that from happening, it might just be a better idea to just go for the solid edge. Okay, so he doesn't do that. He's probably thinking that if I were to jump into e2, he'll be able to prevent c4 by taking b1 again. So that should be an interesting one to think about. There isn't any more nice way for me to actually establish access to jump into c4. Alternatively, I could choose to poison it and just wait for b1 to happen before I commit to e2. Perhaps that is one option. Let's see, what else can I play? Let's see. Maybe I could jump into c7 and just poison the c4 move. If I can't have it, you can't have it, that kind of thinking. Just poisoning the situation. But if I were to play to c7, I basically flip d6 and therefore unpoison this b4 move that he can take with a diagonal cut. And with this no longer being poisoned, as I change this to black, then he would have another clear cut move to the center. Probably not that great. Another approach is I just commit to e2, let him take b1, and then I jump for a floating x square. That should be fun. And probably make the game complicated. So yeah, I mean, that would be fun, but at the same time also risky, I guess. But I don't think I have any much of a choice right now. If I were to commit to the floating x square right now, I don't really make him commit an unbalanced edge. So let's go with e2 first. Actually, now that I played e2, I realize he can't really play b1. That was a bad anticipation on my part, because if he plays it, I still get c4. So I think the overall situation still looks fine for me. But if he plays b1 right now, and if I take c4, he'll just take a clean f2. So I think maybe the floating x square is still necessary for me to follow up, potentially. So what other options could he have? Maybe he'll just take the simple f2 first, and then just let me have c4. Would he choose that? Not too sure. Okay, so he does choose that, which is kind of surprising. But let's go with the regroup to the center c4 almost immediately. I don't see any issue perhaps with that. Hopefully I didn't miss-see anything. But let's see. If he forms the unbalanced edge to the top, which is probably the top priority for him right now in terms of tempo, or he could just go to f6 as well. But either move would probably, I would probably respond with c7, regardless of which move he takes. Basically, c7 gives me an additional tempo, a momentary control on this mini diagonal, so that I can also feed off the edge and jump into the center, perhaps. So, this opening that I played is quite a double-edged sword in the sense that it allows me to play centralizing moves, but at the same time, if my opponent is actually a very strong edge play kind of player, I would actually face a lot of issues. Right now, if I were to play c7, I might actually face some issues over here because now that he's played f6, he's established. I mean, now that he's played f7 and established the f6 disc, he can play a nice h4 move in continuation here. So I might not be able to let go of that move just yet. But if I were to commit to h4, he goes to g3. I lose the c7 move, and if I were to commit over here to h2, he can feed off with h5 and force a h6, which is a terrible move for me. So I might actually have to give up that move for him to the edge. So black, white, black, white, black. Perhaps if he continues, I'll just have to hang on here. But I think I'll be run out of moves potentially after that exchange. Probably not great. Another option is to just jump in for the loud e7. Yeah, prevent h4 immediately. But flipping three discs in three different directions gives up h6 for him, which eventually threatens this over here. Black, white, black. I mean, black. I'll probably have to defend it over here. Either way, doesn't look great for me. Okay, so let's go ahead with c7, which is the natural move to play, I guess. Right now, if he does go for h5, I can actually choose to go if he goes h4, I can actually choose to go h6 for a poison move. So that is playable as well. So right now, I think Mario is thinking very deeply because he's also in a risky situation. Okay, so he quickly takes h4 over here. Okay. So if I were to counter with a poison over here, he might potentially actually just follow with b1. Thereafter which I might face a tough situation. But if I were to go this, black, white, black, and give up this tempo, I basically lose another tempo because I don't force him to commit to b1, which is somewhat of a spare move for him. I cannot prevent b1 this way, I guess, because he just takes the edge and I'll have an issue. So either way, h6 will be forced for me, I guess. Yeah. So right now I'm just trying to make sure that I have enough move to actually force him to break out to the left. If I'm able to do that, I guess I would have a higher chance to win this one. Okay, so opponent has decided to play b5. Cut out the key access this at e2, which provides me access to the important h5, and at the same time going after the access to e7. So I would say that this is a very loud but very beautiful move that achieves multiple purposes. The most makes sense for me to just counter a loud move with a loud move, perhaps. Try to block off his access to g3, because if I were to take g3 and basically he then jumps into e7, 7 potentially, which he retains a spare move to the top and at the same time makes the shape to the bottom difficult. If I were to just jump in right now, black, white, it's still an issue for me. Yeah, this is a very good move by Mario. Does look very difficult for me right now. Black, white. Can't play this because this becomes a quiet move. Black, white. Basically, it's either way. It's a very difficult decision. Black, white, black, white. Continue to the left, maybe. Black. If I were to prevent this, he jumps in. I control this mini diagonal, but this provides access for him to jump in the future. Probably not too great. That leaves it very vulnerable. So I think I'll jump in first and prevent that move from happening. He'll probably cut out to f6 and regain that access back while threatening to capture an even edge to the bottom, which leaves me with no choice but to respond to the bottom, and he grabs this. And then I can probably make my way to the left. Which is probably still going to be quite challenging. But this seems like my only choice at the moment. So yeah, I think b5 is an excellent move. It's really an excellent move from Mario. So forced me. So sometimes I guess if your opponent plays a loud move to achieve multiple point moves perhaps to multiple locations, you might have to choose a loud move to counter that as well to compensate back of what he has done maybe to the board. So hopefully that theory is right. Okay, he does take it. I'll jump into the quick center cut into d8. He would definitely be taking this, I guess. Once he takes that, I'll have no choice but to go on to the left and progress from there. If he doesn't take it and chooses somewhere else, such as b1 or b4, I will take it, I guess. And he still has a spare move to work with. So I think if I were him, I would be indifferent to whether to take it or not. Maybe. Okay, so he chooses to take it. I'll probably have to go towards the left because it wouldn't make sense for me to go to the top and allow him to cut into the center and this becomes poison all on the left. But rather, if I were to jump in over here to the left, he jumps into the center. This is still quite a move for me. So I guess let's go with that. So the only thing that I can hope for right now is to make use of these two interior discs that would allow me to try to make some interior cut maneuver to even the X square. So let's see how that goes. I think right now the situation is really tough for both sides, but I think white is actually leading by a bit, just my sense. White would go to b1, jump in over here, he goes here. I would still have to commit here, and he can jump in to feed off the edge. So if white goes b1, I cannot take this because this becomes a 7 disc odd square, so I might have to actually choose a4 over a5 instead to make it even and ensure that I have some form of parity there. So either way, I think Mario is not making it any easier for me to play out the end game for sure. And I think he's definitely leading just by looking at this shape to the right. And considering he's white, he has an additional tempo that's not great. Usually black would have to have that one in order to overcome parity. So I'm probably losing by quite a bit, potentially. Okay, so he jumps in for a strong move. He probably wants me to commit to this move right here. Which that seems to be the only logical option for me right now. I'll take it. I'll have to take it, but I then form an odd region to the bottom and also to the top. So either way, it seems to be trouble for me. But I control this momentary roll over here. So I could potentially play the X square in the future over here. So I guess he's just gonna either take b1 or b3 over here to advance. That should be his plan. I think right now is very important in the end game, and both of us are running short of time, thinking too deep into the mid game perhaps earlier on. Uh, but yeah, I think the game was quite interesting. It was very complicated. So right now the end game really requires quite a bit of focus just to ensure that things work out, because the shape is not a very common shape or a very simple shape to resolve. If I were to give up this at any given point right now, he takes the corner. I'd go into h7, and if he takes this, I'll go in here. If he takes the bottom, I'll go in here. I can still retain parity, perhaps, to the bottom right. So this is an option for me to make use of these two interior discs to form up a maneuver, perhaps. Right now, if I were to play to the right now there's 6 squares to the top. If I were to go black over here, white basically cuts in over here simply. Black, white, black. Black, white, black. Actually doesn't seem too bad for me. Black, white, black, white. Black, white. Then I might have an issue. Black, white just goes for the diagonal control, perhaps. But I can still play this. Right now, if I just go for this, he takes the corner, I'll jump in, he grabs this, I'll take this. He probably take this, I'll jump in, he takes the corner, I'll go in, and he takes this. I would probably have a problem over there. Black, white, black, white, black. Potentially. Black, white, black, white, black, white, black. That is an issue for me as well. Either way, black, white, perhaps. Black, white, black, maybe. Either way, this is a tough move. So it's probably between G7 and A3. So A3 lies in the parameter. A3, the sequence, black, white, black, white. Black, white, black, white, black. White still has corner access. Black, white, black, white sweeps the entire edge across. Black eats off. Either way doesn't seem too great for me. Okay. How about black, white, black, white, black, white, black, white, potentially? That would have worked out. Black, if white goes here, I would be able to just jump in. So that would make sense. Black, white, black, white. That would have to go. Black, white, black, forming that. Black, white, black, white, black, black. Okay, let's go with A3. A3 basically following up that sequence. Yeah, so usually the late end game, if once you commit to a sequence, you probably can't change that too much anymore because you set yourself on a path of no return potentially. which could be a win or a loss. White will probably jump in over here. Black, white, black, white. Still very tough. I don't have the diagonal control, so it's still very, very tough for me. I don't think I have a win here, perhaps. Right now, these are 5 squares to the bottom. He jumps in. This basically forms up an even region for me. I don't think I have actually a move to actually play over there. Black, white, black, white, black, white jumps in there. That is going to be a problem for me the way. So I'll go for this for now. He could potentially play the diagonal control right now, which is going to be a problem for me. Yeah, I think I kind of lost the game with this move because he plays the diagonal control and I basically have lost the game. Do I have any other option? Okay. Black feeds off, black jumps in. That is probably my only option at the moment. Okay, so this is my only option at the moment for a diagonal control struggle. Probably wouldn't work out either way. I just simply don't have the access to the corner and therefore have some trouble closing out the game. Yep, either way doesn't seem to work. I could try to go for a swindle over here if he goes for a hard pressed excess, maybe. White, black, white. Either way doesn't seem to work out too well for me. He did give up that corner access perhaps. So he jumps in right now over here for sure. That makes sense. Basically jump in.